Hello all, this is Blue Knight 7 coming in today with episode 3 of the Blue Knight cast. And today I wanted to touch on a news story that came up yesterday. And this is concerning Warner Brothers closing 3 game studios, one of which was working on the anticipated Wonder Woman video game, the one that premiered at the Game Awards a while back. And I just wanted to get into this story and talk about where it is in the modern era of gaming and just vent some frustrations, but also maybe just kind of sort of giving my take on what should be done. But we'll get into this here. This is from Video Games Chronicle. I'll link in the description. But just to go through the article here, Warner Brothers Games is closing 3 internal development studios and canceling its Wonder Woman game. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War studio Monolith's Productions is shutting down, with its in-development Wonder Woman game being axed, according to Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier. His sources have also claimed that Warner is closing Multiversus studio Player First Games and mobile-focused studio Warner Brothers San Diego. And just as a real quick, I'm not surprised when it comes to Multiversus, because that's been a thing for a while. Launched once, relaunched again, didn't really succeed. So that when you look at the scheme of other studios being closed in today's news, that one didn't shock me too much, because that was one where the investment had not been returning, apparently. But we'll continue here. Warner Brothers has confirmed the reported closures in a statement issued to Kotaku reporter Ethan Gotch. Sorry if I got the name wrong. We have had to make some very difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises: Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, Detective Comics, and Game of Thrones, it said. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios: Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Brothers Games San Diego. This is a strategic change in direction and not a reflection of these teams or the talent that consists within them. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game will not move forward. Our hope was to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible for the iconic character, and unfortunately, this is no longer possible within, I think they meant, our strategic priorities. This is another tough decision, as we recognize Monolith's storied history of delivering epic fan experiences through amazing games. We greatly admire the passion of the 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions. As difficult as today is, we remain focused on and excited about getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and developed by our world-class studios, and getting our games business back to profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond. And that was an update they put in there. I kind of take that as, yes, we did it, and here's our corporate boilerplate speak, where we say we're committed to the franchises they still have, and the works in progress they still have, and they're committed to profitability and growth. I'll underline profitability and growth because that's all corporations care about. End of update. In late January, Warner announced that Season 5 of Multiversus would be its last, with the game shutting down on May 30. Sorry, I lost my place. There we go. And Bloomberg is reported earlier this month that Monolith's Wonder Woman game, which was announced in 2021, was years away from release after being rebooted in 2024. Warner Bros. Interactive's president, David Haddad, is to leave his position after 12 years at the division, the company confirmed in January. The announcement followed a challenging year for Warner's Games division, which included the commercial failure of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and the disappointing relaunch of Multiverses. This led to Warner Bros. CEO David Zaslav highlighting the games division as a weak link for the company in its earnings results last November when he said it was substantially underperforming its potential. Warner is planning to follow up to 2023 blockbuster Hogwarts Legacy as a priority. The Harry Potter spin-off was that year's best-selling game ahead of The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, and it has since surpassed 30 million sales. Okay, so a few things here. One, of all the companies to do something like this, Warner Brothers does not surprise me. They do, and I'll point at David Zaslav in particular because he has a known history for canceling things just to make sure the profits and losses are where he wants them to be for investors. There was a major push, going out of the world of video games for a second, there was a major push just to get a Looney Tunes film featuring Wile E. Coyote. I can't remember the title of the film here to save me right now. But it was a film fully produced, ready to go to theaters. And he canned it. And yeah, the loss was more than likely used to help with taxes. They made that calculation. But there was a push all over Twitter, and I remember posting and retweeting about it myself, just to get them to put the film in theaters, put it out in some way, shape, or form, streaming, something. And because it was actually supposed to be a good Looney Tunes movie. The art didn't matter, the numbers did, apparently. But it is kind of sad when a film company fully makes a film and then for some reason just doesn't believe in it and doesn't even want to put it to market. Now, by all accounts, Wonder Woman was a game still very much in development, years off. There's been some rumors about different directors, sort of a development hell. But it hadn't been announced that long ago. And this is an instance where you have Warner Brothers, I guess, wanting to make some cuts in the video games division, trying to make it have a higher profit ratio, seeing money being sunk into Wonder Woman's development, which was reportedly at something like $100 million. I'll try to find that link and put it in the description too. So they cut it. And then Multiverses, well, it just wasn't doing well, and they cut it. Warner Bros. San Diego, I'm honestly not familiar with them. I understand they're more of a mobile developer. I don't know what mobile games are impacted by that, to be honest. But they just cut those. And what's sad about it to me is that a decision made probably not too long ago to do this affects a game development studio who's been around for decades at this point. Monolith, I'm talking about in particular, the Wonder Woman developer. And that's a big legacy just knocked down just like that. They're probably best known for Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor, a game that had a unique game mechanic called the Nemesis system, one that Warner Brothers sought to get a patent for. They patented the game mechanic just in case some other developer tried to make something similar in the future. Now, I don't really agree with that, but I'm just saying that was the kind of investment you had in the studio. And the Wonder Woman game was supposed to be using this mechanic somehow. So it's just a lot to just strike down, just like that. Yes, Warner Brother has their rights. Yes, they can bring in another developer later, I guess, someday, if they do. But it's sad that a corporate exec at the top can just make a decision like that and shatter a pretty long legacy. Monolith has made several games, probably from the Xbox 360 era going forward. Condemned. They worked on Fear, Shadow of Mordor, like I said. It's just sad to watch this happen. And as far as the Multiversus developer goes, they had not been working for Warner Brothers that long. I believe they were owned by Warner Brothers for about a year before this has come down. So I'm sure the people in charge of that are regretting that decision to join up. I don't know if it was really their choice or not. I mean, but that's the thing. Corporations acquire stuff, and once they do not give the profit they need in the short term, they throw them away. You're only as good as the last thing you did, and you're only as good as what you did last fiscal year, apparently. And it's just sad. And this is, the last year, a little more, closures of game studios has been a big part of gaming news. That's why I want to jump on this and talk about it today. This has kind of been a big thing. You have a big company like Microsoft acquire a bunch of studios and then they lay them off. And yes, I know that comes with mergers and redundancies, and some of that's expected. But you feel like all you've heard about lately is if they're a large company, they're cutting employees. Nintendo's like the only one that hires or keeps employees, seems like. That sphere. The Nintendo sphere. But if you're anybody else, you're cutting employees. And something RGT85, YouTuber RGT85, alludes to frequently in his content is the fact that we're in a video game crash. Like, maybe you can deny it, but we have to be in a video game crash because of what's going on in the AAA gaming space. And I tend to think he's right, at least a partial crash in the AAA sector. Because what's happening is corporations are getting so focused on short-term profit, short-term investments, that they can't really let long-term investment follow through. So what happens is, if these companies are not putting out their games in a timely manner, and if they're not hitting good profit over their budget for development being ever exponentially increasing amount, it seems like, they're just not going to make it. And yeah, it's a big problem. And yeah, the bigger companies are kind of downsizing and falling down, and in some cases completely closing studios and pulling games out of the market. And it is sort of a crash at the top. It really is. Fortunately, we do have AA gaming that seems to be existing to some extent, and indie games. AA gaming's going to need a big boost. That's pretty much what I'm seeing here. But what needs to be done here? I know nobody's going to listen to me, and I have no sway with anybody. But if I was CEO of some of these companies, I would be telling the investors we're making long-term investments in these projects, and we do expect them to sell. But I would also be going to these devs and being firm about budgets. Because here's what I think is the real problem here. These games are starting to get astronomical budgets. At the time of the Sony leak, it came out, some numbers came out regarding Spider-Man 2, how much it cost for licensing. You could fund multiple games in development for what that licensing for Spider-Man cost them. And they were they make these investments in R&D and graphics and tech too, don't get me wrong, but it was like astronomical numbers, and the game has to sell millions upon millions just to make a profit. That's the problem, because not every game is guaranteed to sell 20 million copies. Breath of the Wild did more than that. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, well, let's just say it's probably been the biggest investment Nintendo's ever made, and the greatest one for return on profit. But not every game can do that. Not every game can do that. Wonder Woman could have sold millions. And no, we don't know exactly what has been invested into that game. It's rumored to been $100 million. But Wonder Woman would have to sell millions, probably by the time it's finished, just to return on profit. And I'm not talking about 1 million, 3 million. I'm talking about 20 million or something. That's what they're obviously shooting for here. And there has to be some boundaries set on the budgets for these games, is what I'm saying. Budget to get it made, budget to get it out on time. And, I'm sure this was supposed to be like an epic AAA experience where, with amazing environments, like really push what a PS5 could do or an Xbox Series could do kind of game. But I think we need to quit doing that with every single release. There needs to be like a budget, a line, get the game out within 4 years of development starting or 5 years of development start. There really needs to be like, deadlines need to mean something, budgets need to mean something, but working within the budget needs to mean something. That's really what I'm getting at here. I know some games feel unfinished because of budgets and deadlines. They need to work within the budget to make something that feels complete and good. Now, with Wonder Woman, I don't know exactly what they were going for here. I'm going to assume, like, this would be for Wonder Woman what Arkham games have been to Batman, though. And no, I'm not really a part of Wonder Woman fandom. Like, I'm sure there's somebody who could tell me what a Wonder Woman game should play like, but my real, just kind of superficial thinking of it would be something like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta, combat. I know she uses melee weapons, just combat. I know she flies an invisible jet, flight sequences. Just to give it a different taste, to do some uniqueness. But at its core, I'd be trying to make something like a Bayonetta or a Devil May Cry. Action game. Tell an original story, yes. Include characters from her lore, yes. But let's not make every single game like this amazing, epic, blockbuster, hundreds upon hundreds of $1 million games. That's the problem. The market just doesn't support that. There was a time during the pandemic when the market was booming. but that was a temporary thing. The corporations did not anticipate to go back down to normal. I don't know why they didn't, but they did not anticipate that. So now their expectations for games are super high. The budgets, they gave them the money, and to be honest, they probably shouldn't have. These should be lower, but it's still a high budget project, but they need to put better ceilings on them and just get the game out. That's the point I'm trying to make here. As a side note on multiverses, when I first saw the game, I saw its potential. I never understood why it didn't go to Switch. I mean, if you have a game that plays like Smash Brothers, people who have the platform where you play Smash Brothers might actually enjoy playing it. Just a thought. But even with that, I always felt like it was a little weird. Like, I get that Warner Brothers has the IPs they have, and yes, they have a whole lot of IPs, or rights to different IPs. But a Smash Brothers where Bugs Bunny faces off with Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and animated series Batman and Game of Thrones characters, that always just felt like real disjointed to me. Like, why? So, like I say, multiverses doesn't surprise me humongously. Wonder Woman's a shame. And it's a shame for people who liked Shadow of Mordor and wanted to see more games use the Nemesis system, because that's where it was coming from. Not sure if we'll see it again for a while now. Patent would probably have to run out at this point. So, yeah, it's a sad day for anybody who wanted those two games in particular, or enjoyed Multiversus, or wanted the Wonder Woman game. Of course, Warner Brothers has other projects in development. Supposedly, Rocksteady is going to be working on a new Arkham game, though it's years from now. By the way, you'd think they would get punished somewhat just for Kill the Justice League. Maybe they acknowledged it was their fault at management on that one. I don't know. But there should still be an Arkham game in development. They're saying they're prioritizing another Harry Potter game, and Mortal Kombat is doing what it's doing. But that's not a lot from Warner Brothers. And that's sort of what I think we're seeing. Studios are getting cut. They're punishing the developers by cutting the developers. I don't think that's exactly right. I think it just needs to be better management as they interact with the developers. But they're cutting developers, so they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And we're going to see less AAA going forward just because they can't figure out how to manage their budgets. They're going to be further and further in between because budgets keep doing what they're doing. And it just seems to be taking longer and longer to make a game. I don't know if it's the bloat of development or just the challenge of making HD 4K gaming. But we need to set some limits. We need to get better time frames for developing these new games. And when we talk about AAA, maybe we just need AA or 2.5A games. I think that's really it. And to me, that's what kept Nintendo churning out games on a regular basis for the Switch. Very few of their games are just different animals from what you see in the other parts of the AAA space. Nintendo doesn't get too riled up in the idea of microtransactions and live service games and things like that. You get Mario Odyssey, and you got Mario Odyssey. They had a little DLC thing with Luigi. You get Breath of the Wild at Switch launch. They come up with a DLC for it. That's it. Tears of the Kingdom, they didn't even do that. It's just the game. It's done. Here you go. But when you look at them, you know, Tears of the Kingdom ran longer, probably because of the pandemic, than they meant for it to. But they just make sure a polished, finished game comes out. And yes, they run on weaker hardware. Yes, it's not going to reach the heights some of these other AAA developers in the third-party space are trying to do. But at least you get a finished game, and at least it comes out. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this today. I'm going to try to keep making content and putting it out regular. If you would please like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel. And thank you very much for your time today listening to this. Things will get better. I believe that. I think we're all waiting for Switch 2 to save us all. Everyone have a good day. Take care.